Hi, very good morning to you. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. We're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about this chart. Reason being is when you are on the facts, you just don't simply move on to the next thing. You stick with it for a bit until, it has sunk in. Everybody understands exactly what is going on and what the data is telling us. Before we go into that, I just want to say, we have 7,000 people view the website every week, and in the last week not one person has even donated a single coin to that website, and a lot of effort goes in there. It's updated sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, and it requires a lot more time being spent on it, to add some more information to it, but there's just a need right now to start getting some funds into the observatory so we can maintain what we've got. Otherwise, we're going to start cutting back on the things we've got, and that is a digression. We're going to go backwards. Not one person either yesterday contributed a little bit of support, yet the facts we're talking about are real facts. There is a big cover-up taking place right now globally with regards to CO2, and it is affecting your lives. There is a misconception with regards to what is causing climate change, and again, it affects your lives, it affects your ability to earn money, the cost of living, etc., etc. So it is a very important observatory with regards to what we are relaying to people. Okay, so I'm just going to mention the link down there in the description, and there is also a link on the website if you want to help support and keep the observatory going and delivering the information, because here's an example of how important the information is that we deliver. So we're looking at this chart, which obviously, as you can see at the top of the chart in the heading, atmospheric CO2 and the glacial cycles. Now, I said the other day in the video when we was talking about this chart, we've talked about it a couple of times, I don't like the idea of the use of the term cycles, because you can see that there isn't really a cycle if you look at it in terms of time. If it was every 100,000 years exactly, I would say that was a cycle, but you can see that interglacial periods are lasting times shorter and longer in some points of this chart than glacial periods, and that is the very aspect we want to talk about today. So if we look back at 650,000 years ago and just concentrate on the interglacial periods, which are the yellow parts, which obviously show rises in CO2, that's because it's an interglacial time, the weather is warmer, and we're not in obviously a glacial period, so CO2 is going to be released from the oceans, and in doing so, CO2 levels are going to rise in parts per million. We can see that on the left hand column, CO2 rising when the temperature gets warmer. And we can also denote from this that if we go back 650,000 years and we see rises in CO2 over longer periods than what we are at present seeing, then obviously humans are not responsible for changing the climate as a result of this. But there's a bigger picture that's not being talked about here. We can see that over a 650,000 year period of interglacial periods going back to the 650,000th year, that they are getting shorter as they come closer to the present day. Whereas on the other hand, interglacial periods are getting longer as they come towards the present day. Now, this would indicate a cooling over 650,000 years, naturally, because we are spending more time in interglacial periods. Now, if you look again at the top, at interglacial periods, you can see that they are getting shorter. The time distances that they last are getting shorter to the present day. Look how short the one is at the present time. Very short. It's the shortest one there. But if we just look at the last glacial period, we'll see that was the largest one on record over the 650,000 years. So I want to ask the question, if we are going back into a glacial period at some point in the near future, how long do you think that glacial period is going to last? Because the last one according to this data, lasted over nearly 100,000 years. I want to go back to another fact that we recently talked about with regards to that 30-year Arctic cold snap that Texas experienced over the last couple of weeks. Now, it was just over a couple of week period that it had the opportunity to affect 100 million people. The infrastructure had broken down because the grid had gone down. Now, that was just a 2-week period. What is going to happen in 100,000 years of glacial period and temperatures over the northern hemisphere? Certainly, the cropping lands that we're using right now are going to go straight offline, so we need to find somewhere excuse me, around the equatorial region or southern equatorial region to start growing crops for the people that are over the northern hemisphere. But what is going to happen is the arable growing lands are probably not going to sustain the nearly 8 billion people on this planet right now, if that happens. We are struggling to maintain feeding adequately, the amount of people that are on this planet right now, currently around about 8 billion people. So how are we going to achieve that during, the beginnings of a new glacial period? My point is this, is that they couldn't have got it any worse. Their verdict that we are in global warming, that we are facing as a result of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere that humans have put there, changes in climate. The fact that they have got it 180 degrees wrong when clearly the data shows us completely something else. And that is what I've just described to you guys. There is a considerable lie taking place right now. And, the majority of people on this planet are unaware of it, and the ones that are aware of it, probably 50% of those aren't even interested, because what they're interested in is tomorrow. And because of that failure to look ahead, it is going to cause a lot of trouble for a lot of people further down the road. Our infrastructure has not been invested in to, sustain the climatic changes that we are going to see in the not too distant future, as a result of probably returning into a glacial period, which will be probably catalysed by the magnetic poles that are reversing on our planet. And the reason why I say that is because they're directly related to cloud seeding, which means more water vapour, which is a greenhouse gas, is going to go into the atmosphere. And when we get more water in the atmosphere, it becomes a perfect shield for blocking out radiation. And at that point, we are going to see more cooling. So, I predict less blue skies over the northern hemisphere for a lot of people. And as a result of that, we will gradually start to see changes and shifts in the temperature on our planet, which will inevitably, as we should expect in any case, bring us back into the next glacial period. And it is at that point we're going to be in a lot of trouble, because of the amount of people on this planet that demand, as anyone should do, food, electricity, a job, because you need all these things, if you're in a monetary system. You need a job to obtain the money, you need the money to purchase the food, to pay for your electricity, etc., etc. So we're facing massive problems, and what we're seeing right now is a complete cover-up of the truth. And I don't understand why scientists that have taken an oath, that work for these organisations, have put themselves before what they should have done, putting other people before themselves. And we've seen this happen. And as these corporations get bigger and bigger, the problem is going to expand. There will be a cut-off point of where it can't be going any further like this. At that point, it will be a catastrophic end for a lot of people in this modern world that we're living right now. And that's why it's important, guys, that we keep our eyes on this, so that we have some sort of heads up as to what is really going on, where it's taking place. And we need to make some forecasts and predictions based on the data that we collect, and we're trying to do our best efforts on that with what we've got out in the field already in Arizona, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, and to be other locations. But that is not enough. We're not being funded by the government. We don't have trillions of pounds to build more equipment, employ people. We rely solely on what we scrape together by you guys. This is a publicly funded observatory, trying to cut through all the lies and the darkness and shine a little bit of light on the truth so that you're informed correctly. If that's something, that gels with you, and you're conscious, then maybe you want to do something a little extra and step forward and help fund what we do here at this observatory. And the links are down there in the description, and you can go on the website as well, and there are buttons on there where you can do that. Guys, the only other thing to say is I hope you understand what I've showed you and pointed out very clearly in this video. But if not, I don't mind going over this chart another 10-20 times so that you see what is being revealed here and the truth of it. Okay, nothing else to say other than take care of your loved ones, and as always, bye for now.